I knew there was something there that I had to scratch the itch, right? There was no stopping me. But then I also think just like like I said, I'm a fairly practical person. And so I just was thinking like, there's nothing on the market like this. I'm a parent. I was a user. And I don't know if you have kids, but if you like, as a young parent, you will buy whatever it is for like, if another parent has it, or if it helps you for that one split second, like, like just like all you need sometimes just make your life slightly easier and like send me the Amazon link. Right. So I knew there would be like a market there, especially as like new parents. You're always trying to look for like a baby gift or like like anything just to kind of gift that new mom to make her life a little easier. And then I think it really solved a problem. Like I swear to you, Dave, like you put this in front of a 1-year-old and immediately they're like eyes on, and like how many times a day does someone try to get a photo of their beautiful, precious new baby? All the wasted time like jumping around. And so I promise you, if you're like, hey, look at this, they have no idea what they're looking at. If you're like, hey, roar at the lion, they know exactly what to do. So anyway, long story short, is like I kind of knew the economics of it. I knew like I can make like X, make Looky Lou for X, and I probably could sell it for Y. I work in social media with small businesses all day long. I've seen them be able to scale their spend. And then I kind of just knew it was solving a really big problem that I think was like there. I know there's a there, and I've not seen anything else like it on the market.
Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This person has created the only rattle that clips onto your phone and gets your kid to smile. Please help me welcome the founder of Looky Lou, Kaitlyn Trabucco. How is it going, Caitlyn?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's so
Oh,
fun
for
to be
sure.
here.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to have you on. I know we're chatting on and off or chatting on offline a little bit about just kind of the whole IP process. And I'm definitely excited to kind of really talk about that part of it as well with your particular product. But just for the audience, for those of who maybe listening on audio or maybe looking at the video version of the interview, can you maybe explain what it is that you've created with your product?
I would love to. Okay, so I'm a mom of two. We take a lot of photos of our kids as parents. And one day, my husband and I were jumping around like fools trying to get our child to look at the camera, like every parent does with new babies. And we were like, someone should make a rattle that clips to your phone so your baby will look and it will capture their attention and maybe like hopefully smile. There you go. And so, yes, we made the Looky Lou. So it's this rattle that clips to your phone and you can like move it all around to get your baby to look and smile at the camera. So yeah, this is the Looky Lou. And then we can go into this, but manufacturing takes a really long time. So in the meantime, I got bored and we wrote a little book to go along with it. So you can like read the book and then like, be like, here comes Lou, and your child kind of knows who the character is at that point. So
No,
yeah.
and absolutely, and we're definitely going to. We have a number of things to chat about here. This, I guess, this morning for you, this afternoon for me, being here in the Midwest. You've talked about the book. You also had the Buy It Now experience. We're definitely going to talk about the manufacturing aspect of things and kind of that process. Like you said, it took maybe a little longer. I do want to ask you this because you've kind of worked with this business with your husband, Chad. I know it's your kind of baby and you're the brains behind the operation. And me personally, I always like to see kind of families where there's a husband and wife, mom, son, whatever the case may be, more of a family business. How is it working with your husband with the business? I know that can have its challenges, but it seems like it can be beneficial as well.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. Well, it's funny because we kind of came up with the idea together, and I was like, oh my gosh, Chad, we're gonna co-found this together. And I consider myself a businesswoman, and I'm like the like true entrepreneur. I don't know if he would like describe himself like that. So we maybe went 48 hours with him as my quote unquote co-founder until he was like one too many 11 p.m. meetings for him, and he was like, I'm out. Like I don't know if I can like stand your energy with this right now. So he became my creative director, and he is like, that is the part of it I don't love. So he like really helped with the colors and the design and like the book and our logo and the branding and all of that. He's so good at all that. And I kind of do more of like the operations and pushing this thing forward and user research and the manufacturing side, like all the kind of stuff that doesn't involve any form of creativity. That's my role.
So that's interesting. Is that his background? Because I know we're going to talk about your background, and it seems like you had a number of different, product management, head of product, those type of kind of in terms of at least coming up those experiences. So I would have thought that from a product standpoint, from a creativity standpoint, that maybe was something that you would be what's the word I'm looking for? Flourish in. But has his background been any type of creativity or whatnot, or did he just kind of he just loved to do it naturally, so it was like a natural fit for him?
A little bit professionally, but I would say like, so, we can talk about all the advice around entrepreneurship just in general, but like you have to do what you're passionate about. And so for him, that is his passion. Like he, in every aspect of his life, like from food to like our house to like his clothing, it's all thoughtful and like a thoughtful design process. Where mine and what I'm passionate about is like business and numbers and like figuring out the texture and how everything works and like how do we shave off margin here. That is like my product background, and so I think together we made like a really good, we made a good team in a lot of areas of life, but also we've found in business as well.
No, for sure. And I always like the just the businesses that have more than one, I guess, founder or more than one person that's involved in it, just because we all have blind spots, right? So again, some person may be the technical, some may be the creative, some may be kind of good at kind of working with numbers and paying close attention to details. And I guess I want to say, yeah, the more people that you have involved with things that can kind of cover your blind spots, I think the better off you will be from a successful standpoint in business. And again, like I said, the fact that the other person is kind of a family member, a lot of times, like I said, I know it could go both ways, but it seems like just having that common goal, especially being a husband and a wife, can really be an advantage going forward. But it seems like I said, product development, you have your bachelor's, you have your MBA. Were you always destined to be, or thought you would be an entrepreneur? I know you said you kind of on the business side and looked at yourself as a businesswoman or is a businesswoman. Did you always think that, okay, at some point I'm gonna have my own product as well as my own business, or did that just kind of just was happenstance? It just kind of came into fruition that way.
Yeah, it's funny. For most of my life, no. And I was like, no, those entrepreneurs are crazy because you really do have to be like a few screws loose to be an entrepreneur, right? Like you have to dream big and have like 1 foot off of reality.
Yeah.
So yes, no, I was like, that's for other people. But now I feel like looking back on my life, I was raised by an entrepreneur. My mother was an entrepreneur. We've always admired and like upheld these entrepreneurial stories. And then even when I went to go get my MBA, I was going to like help entrepreneurs figure out, like do consulting and figure out their business strategies. And so looking back, I always think like the path to entrepreneurship was there. Maybe I was just too scared to ever consider myself as one. But it was always, I think, like in my blood and meant to be, but just maybe not. I didn't realize that yet.
Oh, I got you. And again, I guess as your husband found out, man, entrepreneur, you almost have to always be on, whether it's at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the evening. You always have to kind of take meetings and do what's necessary to grow the business, which seems like that's something that you kind of really don't mind doing. But I guess other people's may have a little bit of an issue doing that.
Yeah, well, you might know, so you have a side hustle, you have your podcast, but for me, people always like have asked me, when's the right time to start your business? And I'm like, because you cannot stop thinking about it.
For sure.
Like when you go to bed at night and your wheels are spinning about that other thing, that's when you should start your business. Like, you just, there's no stopping you. And that's when I think entrepreneurship finds you, because there's just like, it's like a freight train. You can't stop it.
No, for sure. I completely agree with that. I know a lot of times, just kind of being obsessive over that said thing, and I get that a lot with kind of what I'm doing with the podcast and being able to, okay, I need to talk about this subject or kind of break this news or interview this person, and yeah, it's like nonstop, and it's something that I've kind of become obsessive with over
Yeah.
time. So I guess maybe kind of throwing that question back to you from your perspective, how do you kind of deal with? Because again, I kind of still have the full-time job as being an IP practitioner, helping people get patents and trademarks and all those things. And I kind of do them both, but I'm okay. I love working 12-hour days. That just, I guess, and for me, it's beneficial because it's all kind of dealing with IP, the podcast or the channel, that's all IP. And then when I'm helping people obtain patents and trademarks, that's IP. That's kind of my full-time job. So it's kind of all the same with me. But I guess, how do you look at that? Because it could be different. Your business could be different from what you're doing full time, and kind of having to do both of them. How do you kind of balance out all that?
Yeah, well, it's hard. I'll say that. And then, I got two little kids at home, so balancing it is hard. And yes, definitely like when you like are done with your full-time job and then like, put the kids bath, bedtime, read books, etc. You get in bed. I'm like, wait, now I have like an ounce of creativity left in me to do the Looky Lou thing.
Sure.
But I will say so my big two corporate jobs have been in social media. So and specifically like business. I worked with small businesses on social media. So it kind of has gone really nicely hand in hand where I've been able to understand all the tools of social media that are like at my disposal and be able to utilize them for Looky Lou. So, a lot of the people, like I think you found us on Instagram, like there's a lot of power in like our reach on social media. And so I do think there's been like a nice overlap. And then, yeah, so I'm a product manager. So all day long, I'm asking like, pretty in-depth business questions of like,
Sure.
how's it going to work? How are users going to react? What's the research? What's our market cap? Like, all of those things that I've been able to use in a much smaller version with the baby rattle. But it's like empowered me to be able to ask questions, learn things. I think, you know, another pet peeve I just hear so much, like, which is people who are starting up their business, like, well, I don't know how to do X. I'm like, well, it's your job to figure it out. Like you
And you
have
will figure it out. Oh, you go through the process. You would at some point figure it out. You're not going to know everything.
exactly. Like, we were talking as in the IP stuff and trademarks, whatever. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, but you just go ask questions and you go and find people who have done it before. You go like find a mentor, find people who have done these things, and you just got to go figure it out. And I had like, product management is a lot like that too. Like, there's not a lot of companies who have done something new in social media. You just have to go figure out what the next step is. Like, that's your job. So I think it's really helped me in that way.
Oh, absolutely. And I think going back to what you said in terms of social media, I think that's a great equalizer. Again, another part of this podcast is to try to get everybody to uh become an entrepreneur in some sense, just because I
Yeah.
think especially these days with AI, I think it makes it a lot easier to be an entrepreneur and having that help to be able to run things a lot more leaner as well as efficient. But then social media is like the great equalizer because back in the day you had to be in big box retail and to be able to kind of make money. But these days you can make money on Amazon, you can make money on different e-commerce platforms as well as social media. And it's almost like this great equalizer. And if it's one thing I know, just being an IP attorney, when I tell people I'm a patent attorney specifically, they're like, hey, I have an ideal. So we all have ideals. So it's like, okay, let's try to move on those things. And I think you only need to be right once, and that can kind of change your family kind of life generationally. And I guess along those lines, uh, what made you think that Looky Lou was the right product? Because I would imagine that you had other products that you had thought of that come and gone. And what made you say, okay, this is the one that I need to kind of take all the way dealing with manufacturing and all that other stuff?
Yeah. Well, one, I would say it was what I said. Like, I just couldn't stop thinking about it, right? Like, I would like chat like all day long. Be like, what do you think if we do this? What should we do this? What should we, and so I knew there was something there that I had to scratch the itch, right? There was no stopping me. But then I also think just like like I said, I'm a fairly practical person. And so I just was thinking like, there's nothing on the market like this. I'm a parent. I was a user. And I don't know if you have kids, but if you like, as a young parent, you will buy whatever it is for like, if another parent has it, or if it helps you for that one split second, like, like just like all you need sometimes just make your life slightly easier and like send me the Amazon link. Right. So I knew there would be like a market there, especially as like new parents, you're always trying to look for like a baby gift or like like anything just to kind of gift that new mom to make her life a little easier. And then I think it really solved a problem. Like, I swear to you, Dave, like you put this in front of a 1-year-old and immediately they're like eyes on, and like how many times a day does someone try to get a photo of their beautiful, precious new baby? All the wasted time, like jumping around. And so I promise you, if you're like, hey, look at this, they have no idea what they're looking at. If you're like, hey, roar at the lion, they know exactly what to do. So anyway, long story short, is like I kind of knew the economics of it. I knew like I can make like X, make Looky Lou for X, and I probably could sell it for Y. I work in social media with small businesses all day long. I've seen them be able to scale their spend. And then I kind of just knew it was solving a really big problem that I think was like there. I know there's a there, and I've not seen anything else like it on the market. So I just, yeah, there was a lot of things that lined up.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what I love about your product is the fact that people are always going to make kids. It's not like it's an in season of making kids and an out of season of making kids. It's like a kid being born every day. So it's like, okay, this product is always going to be relevant for people to purchase, especially like you said, gifts, baby registries, whatever the case may be, birthdays. This is a great gift product, which they talked about extensively on Buy It Now, especially with the book, which I love that fact. So that's a cool thing. So I guess we're kind of moving on to what we was talking about, maybe offline, the
I know.
intellectual. Go ahead.
Can
Go
one
ahead. Yep.
interesting thing there. So one interesting thing I didn't talk about was, so at the time that I thought of Looky Lou and founded the company of Looky Lou, I was working for Twitter. And at the time, Elon Musk was doing his hostile takeover of Twitter. So to me, it was this really like, you're working in corporate and you have no control over what is happening. And I was just reading the news of like, this crazy thing that was happening to my company. But Looky Lou was this thing I could have complete control over. And so like I had, I could say, do X and it would get built, or, and there was such control I had over it. So again, the timing of it was really perfect as I was watching Twitter kind of go down the drain and like being able to do my own thing for a while.
No, and that's a great point. And that's why I always encourage people to be entrepreneurs, because this is not like back in the day, maybe our parents or our grandparents, where you were going to work a job for 30 years and kind of retire and I guess go off into the sunset, so to speak. This is not that time, day and time where, you have layoffs left and right. And that's not even just a Twitter thing. I'm talking about, I think Microsoft recently had some layoffs, UPS is going through it. All these big companies, these legacy companies kind of have layoffs left and right, especially as you get off into AI and some of these more technology advancements, to the point where your job is not as secure as maybe it once was. So being able to have something that you have a lot more control over now, again, you have to be able to work it and not be lazy, but to the extent that you can be you have a good work ethic, you can be disciplined and kind of willing to solve, be a problem solver. You can have success in business. And I think I was probably going to need that, because your job is not going to be as just as a set in stone or a given as it maybe once was. So I love that part of, hey, I have control over this thing and the outcome, and not so much with kind of corporate America working for somebody else and kind of going from there. So, and again, that's, to be honest with you, as I have done a lot of these interviews, you guys have inspired me in a lot of ways to be able to say, okay, I do want to create a product. I want to kind of get off into being able to sell a product or a tool or whatever the case may be. And I believe I have a good position in terms of the IP practitioner, but not really relying on that and saying, okay, I can do something else. Obviously, the media channel, that's continuing to grow with the podcast, but also coming out with a product and kind of further insulating myself against something kind of terrible happening with the day job in terms of being an IP practitioner. So even for myself, I'm kind of using these interviews and get inspired and kind of being able to think through things and kind of think about different things to come out with, even though I would say that kind of my profession has at least been pretty good to me up until this point in time.
Can't wait to see what you come up with. This is
so for sure. So I'll definitely be kind of picking your brain, especially as a product development, to see, make sure if I'm missing something or I'm not thinking through something. I guess from a selfish standpoint, that's another good thing about kind of doing these interviews, just kind of building those relationships and just kind of being able to exchange different ideas, helping out on the IP side. Obviously, I can help out on the IP side as that's my profession, but some things as relates to manufacturing or maybe marketing, being able to kind of tag you all for kind of that expertise that you guys have been able to kind of go through over the time of creating a business.
Yeah.
So then going to the IP side of things, and you talked about it earlier, you're not going to know everything, but you're going to be able to figure it out, or you have to be able to figure out with the business. Is IP something that you kind of knew coming into starting a business with Looky Lou? I know you talked about product management, and I'm not sure if you crossed paths with IP from that side of things, or was this something that was completely new to you as you were developing Looky Lou?
IP was new to me, although I've worked with lawyers a lot. I work with lawyers a lot just in my normal day job. And also I had a startup prior to Twitter too, where we dealt with it was a marketplace for educational tools. And so we dealt a little bit with some of the IP issues there. All that to say, yeah, it was new. And I had to do like Googling and talking to people and talking to other founders who had created something to try to get their advice and understanding of what are the next steps. And yeah, it's a long, arduous process and expensive, right? So you kind of also have to figure out where you're spending your time and risk and navigating all of that.
No, and that's, part of business, going back to the whole problem solving thing. As you pointed out, it's And it's almost like this kind of Rubik's Cube where kind of businesses had all these moving parts, whether it's manufacturing and the molds, which can be expensive. I'll be the first to tell people IP can be an expensive thing, especially when you're talking about patents. Trademarks is not as bad, but patents definitely can be expensive. And it's like, okay, you only have a finite amount of money, especially as a startup. So like, where do you put that money such that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck over the course of time? And hopefully as you grow, you have more money to spend on things that are necessary. But yeah, definitely. Again, I'm not going to kind of disclose our conversation offhand about patents, particularly, and kind of going through that. But obviously, you have the trademark on Looky Lou, and yeah, it seems like you've kind of been navigating these IP waters to the best of your abilities and kind of learning on the go.
I guess my overall thought process around it, and again, I've learned this through life and particularly with product management in general, where, I'm about to launch a product and our legal team was like, nope, sorry, you can't do X. And I'm like, well, what's the risk? What's the risk of X? Like, what's the worst case scenario that would happen if I launched this product? Okay, well, and you're trying to weigh the pros and cons of the risk that you're taking, right? And so same thing with Looky Lou and starting your own thing. Like, what is the risk? Like, what are the ramifications? And what's the benefit? What's the reward? And so like, I'm sure you do this all day long, right? Of just figuring out at what stage of your company do you think that you're exposing yourself to more risk, and what protections do you actually need, and like, et cetera. And I would say, maybe you don't like to hear this as a lawyer, but I feel like a lot of times people you are too scared to move forward without the legal protections that maybe they need. And I'm always like, just keep moving. Like, you don't know how people are going to respond to this yet. Like, go see if you even actually have a product that like has like weight, versus being too scared about maybe some of the like legal protections that you need in place prior.
No, and the only thing I completely agree with that. Sometimes you have to take those risks, and I always say, as long as I'm informed and I'm making an informed decision, I'm okay with that. So it's like I don't want things to kind of slap me out of nowhere or whatever the case may be. But as long as I'm informed with the pros and the cons of kind of doing something a particular way, I'm okay with kind of making that decision and going from there. The only thing I would say, especially on the IP side of things, is that you have time bars, which can kind of be a complete game changer, if you will. So here in the U.S., once you disclose a product to the public, and most other countries have this as well, but in the U.S. at least, you have a year to file for at least patent protection on it. Now, for a trademark, you can file it on day one of starting the company, or day 365. And as long as no one has kind of filed for trademark protection on it, you can still get trademark protection on that name or that logo or phrase, as long as it's essentially new. But from patents particularly, you do have that kind of year. In the US, they give you a year grace period. Now, some other countries, I know we were talking about China earlier, they really don't give you a grace period once you have a public disclosure, is what we call it, the product. However, in the US, they do give you a year grace period once you disclose the product, to be able to file for protection on it, at least on the patent side of things. That's why I always let people or advise clients to say, at least file a provisional application, because that's going to at least kind of give you that date so that you can kind of figure things out and kind of decide whether or not you want to file for protection or not. So that's the only thing I would say from a disclosure perspective, is on the IP side of things, you do have those time bars, which if you disclose something, you let a year pass, then you can potentially be barred, or you can be barred from being able to get patent protection on that particular version of the product. Now, if you kind of come up with a new version and that's considered to be new or none obvious, then you can potentially get patent protection on that updated version of it. But to the extent that did you disclose something, then you don't file for patent protection in a year, that can kind of be looked at as a time bar. So that's the only thing I would say as far as kind of just putting something out there. And from a legal standpoint, you do have those time bars in IP specifically.
Yeah, you've probably seen people get in real trouble.
Or just even interviewing people, and they're like, hey, one guy, he was on Shark Tank Nightcap. It was like a drink, it kind of prevented people from spiking your drink, particularly as it relates to women. And they were crushing it, especially with like schools, and schools were ordering a ton of these things to give to their students before school started. And they were looking to expand and go overseas, but they got the US patent. They didn't think too much of it about going overseas, at least at that point in time. And it just happenstance. It was like, okay, we need to kind of try to file for patent protection overseas, because we're going to start selling these things overseas. But that time period had ran out, such that they couldn't get it protected overseas. So it just kind of made things a little bit more challenging for them as it relates to expanding, I think in like the UK or whatever the case may be. So that's the big
Mhm.
thing. But I mean, I get it. Like I said, it's tough because you maybe didn't have the money to go overseas. It can be tough because now you're dealing with foreign counsel and
Yeah.
all that, and it can get a lot more expensive, and you maybe just don't have the money for it. But just kind of understanding if that's a market that you're trying to extend into later down the line. Again, you can still do it. However, you are maybe not protected if somebody else wants to kind of sell the exact same product because you don't have patent protection. So again, it is tough if you're trying to spend the money wisely, but as long as you're informed and kind of understanding the pros and cons of doing something or not doing something, then I guess it is what it is. But they were definitely down about not going overseas initially and trying to do it later on, which, like I said, they just weren't protected. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I have to say about that. But then I
Yeah.
guess
It's good problems to have though, like that means your product's doing well and you
yeah,
want to expand. Those are good problems. So, but yes, definitely problems.
no, for sure. And like you said, if you're looking to expand things overseas and it seems to be a need for it overseas, like you said, it's definitely a good problem. Like I said before, patents are not allowing you to do something. It's an exclusionary right. So they can still sell the product overseas. They just can't keep people out of the market from also selling the product overseas. That's the only thing. But again, that's why a lot of times trademarks are a big part of it because if you had that brand recognition, people want to buy from your particular company as opposed to a competitor or whatever the case may be because of the quality or the customer service or a number of things that kind of make your product more desirable or working with you more desirable. So that's why I always like to say kind of IP is like a toolbox. You want to get as many kind of tools in that toolbox as possible to be able to kind of give you an advantage over competitors when you're selling your product or your services in the marketplace. So
Yes.
so then from a buy it now perspective, what was like that mindset to say, okay, we need to take this thing to buy it now? I know a lot of people, I know buy it now particularly is a newer show that a lot of people still may not be familiar with, and it's a Amazon show. But what was that mindset to say, hey, Chad, we need to take this thing on buy it now and get it out to the masses that way?
Oh my gosh, Dave. It was not that. That was not the story. I wish it was. I wish I had the foresight. No, I got a random I thought it was like almost a sketchy email that I would have ignored about, a TV show that was unknown that couldn't disclose it to us. I mean, this was October, I think, and we went through the whole process to March. So it was a long, long time of months of me like emailing with this girl who we kept asking us for more stuff, like sending in a video about this to disclose some of your financial stuff. And I was like, what the heck is this? And she would kind of be elusive of what she could tell us. And I think not even real. And then we got, she called me one day. It was like, you've been accepted to the show. I'm like, amazing. What is it? I still have no idea. Um, and so, and honestly, not until the week of, I knew Amazon was involved somehow, but I had no idea the extent of it. So until the week of, I remember asking one of the producers who called me and I was like, is Amazon like gonna be there? Will they like be on set? And she like kind of again like coldly was like, Amazon will be there. Like she kind of like just again like said it coldly. So I thought we're close to LA, so we drove to LA. I thought we were driving to like a back alley and they'd be like, show us into this like old dilapidated like studio. Like I thought it was gonna be like less low budget thing. And we pull in, I'm like, oh my God, Chad, we are in, Culver City, which is right next to Hollywood. Amazon Prime Studios. It's like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel being like taped over there, like all these famous like people and studios around us. And there's like this massive screen of Lizzo right above us. We were like, oh my gosh, where are we? So yeah, we walked into the Amazon Prime Studios. Gwyneth Paltrow was there. Yeah, they like started listing all these famous people that were going to be our judges for the day. We were freaking out. Fun fact, the studio that we were recorded in was the studio that Wizard of Oz was
Really?
recorded. Yeah.
Wow.
One of the oldest studios in Hollywood. So yeah, it was cool. It was very cool. It was a very, very cool experience. I could go more into it. But no, I did not know. I had no foresight in being like, woohoo, like, well, let's go, let's do this thing. It was they kind of pursued us. And yeah, so it
Well,
happened.
and that's crazy because it seems like even it's like they're telling you you've been accepted and apply. You're like, what the heck is this thing? Okay, I'll apply, but it's tough to get excited when you don't know what it is until you like literally pull up and you're like, oh, this is serious.
Oh, you'll appreciate this as a lawyer. So one of the most intense things was this background check. And like I've had background checks for jobs and stuff before. This was so insane. They were going through all of our social media, like contacting people that I was like, oh my gosh, like I'd never even talked to that person in like 5 years, insane stuff. Anyway, they came back. Well, they like found like I work in social media. So I had a bunch of like random social media accounts that they found. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Anyway, they came back and they're like, you need your background check came back saying you don't have a Santa Barbara business license, the city that I live in. And I was like, what? I need a business license for the city that I live in. And so they're like, you need this like immediately or you fail the background check. So as you can fathom, it takes like, 6 to 8 weeks for this stuff. And it was $25, this business license. But oh my gosh, I was like driving down to City Hall, like calling everyone I knew to like help a sister out, like get me this business license. And long story short, they finally, like one girl emailed me. It was like, if you've paid the $25 and submitted the thing, like you can probably take this email as like a confirmation of your business license. And that ended up working, but it was so scary. I almost lost the whole thing because I didn't have a Santa Barbara business license. So anyway.
And that's interesting because I have heard from like Shark Tank participants that just them going through, like you said, that application process, it makes them think about things from a business standpoint that they had not considered or thought about or really had flushed out, such as a business license, such as having insurance for the product. It's all these things that, at least with Shark Tank, they required that maybe the business hadn't thought of or haven't gotten. But again, just them going through that application process kind of forces them to kind of do maybe what's in the best interest of their business that they probably hadn't thought or had no idea that they needed to do. So it seems like it kind of worked out for you in that same way.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Thank goodness.
So then kind of you talked about on the show, which I had to ask, and you hinted at it a little bit earlier, in terms of the manufacturing, $50,000 for the molds. A lot of people don't know about the molds. I'm assuming that it was in China, if I had to guess. But can you talk a little bit about that process and kind of going through it? It seems like it was a interesting one.
Yeah, that one, like, I mean, I knew there would be investment for sure in getting 10,000 units. And yeah, the mold is the most expensive. So a lot of times people will be like, you know, you should do a koala. You should like have the head come off and you can switch it on and off. And, you should have a whole farmland. Cute ideas, very cute ideas. You should do it. But the mold itself was $17,000.
Okay.
Just the mold. And but then I mean, back up. You can say like the prototyping, the 3D printing, the getting like I didn't know the thickness of this plastic, that I didn't know what like the thickness of the screw that needs to go through to make it hard enough and safe enough for babies. Like there's a lot of like consider the paint on here could be toxic to babies. You have to like test out different paints and get them approved. Like there's just wild these like wild every little component that I had no idea. You can make different widths of springs, like all the things, right? So all the prototyping, I had to pay people to give me like consulting or work us through the CAD design and like anyway, all of that before you even get to the mold. And then the mold is, very expensive and you kind of have to be like, is this it? Is this the final product? Because there's no changing it
Yeah,
after you
for sure.
before, which as a woman who's worked in software her whole career, I thought that was just wild, and then you like email China like, hey, okay, like make this one change, and then it takes months to send me the prototype of it, so anyway, yeah, that was a lot. And then actually getting everything like manufactured, finding a manufacturer. I got 3 different quotes from 3 different manufacturers when I finally landed on the design, and they came back so wildly different. Like the
Really?
business model, oh, I mean, wild. Like the business model too of all 3 were really very different. So you could either pay like a little bit for the mold or more per product, or some of them like paid like a ton for the assembly, but like less. So you kind of had to think about like, is it the mold that I'm going to want to change a lot throughout the years, or is it like I actually want to hit volume and pay like less per lion? Yeah. And then when we got on the show, it kind of was a rush to, all right, like, do we need 10,000 units? Do we need 30,000 units? So you just had no idea how much you're going to sell through. And it kind of, some people were like, well, you could do like back orders. I'm like, a back order could be 3 or 4 months. And in my opinion, you lose a customer, So, anyway, yeah, it was a lot to consider.
No, and again, that's I guess a great point that you talked about it with the back order because I was talking to who was I talking to? Maybe it was Daniel. Daniel and I talked to so many people that I forget names just because there's so many people. Daniel Victor, what did he have?
You know.
He was on Buy It Now. Uh the product is escaping me, but or maybe it was Grill Bots
Oh yeah, that's
which
good.
is the kind of the robot, which is the robot that cleans your grill. And
Yeah.
but he was talking about how with the orders, because I think that was his problem where he kind of ran out of orders. So he was like going forward, look, I'm gonna just his philosophy was I'm gonna just make sure I have more than enough, and I still have that. I still have the product to be able to kind of sell at some point, as opposed to not having enough. And to your point, missing orders. She's like, okay, even if I order 5,000 and 3,000 sale during that holiday season or whatever the case may be, I still got 2,000 that I will sell eventually, as opposed to not having enough and kind of not making those orders. So that was kind of his philosophy. It seems like maybe you are of the same mindset in terms of having maybe more than enough as opposed to less than and then kind of missing those orders.
It was all such a hard calculation too, and I had to make quick decisions because they're shipping them by boat, which is a wild concept, but like when you get the like quotes for air, you're like, oh no, absolutely put the thing on a boat, which can be like 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
You go through customs, like there's just so many like hoops you have to jump through to understand. Like filling out custom forms for all this stuff, like it was just things you never done before, and you really had to like figure it out. And sometimes there were people to ask, but other times it was just really like you're figuring it out on your own. Yeah, it was a lot and a rush too, and you just kind of there's a lot of unknowns, and Amazon's a giant, right? And so they didn't have a ton of answers for us, and I am such a small fry compared to what they do, so it was hard to figure it all out. And you kind of had to go with your gut and just do like what you were comfortable with. At the end of the day, I was like, what can we as a family afford? Like, what can I afford? And that's really like, and what's, again, going back to like weighing the risks, right? Like I had to like, what's the biggest risks we can take? And what's the eventual reward on that? And what is the appropriate balance we feel like, worst case scenario, like what happens if we sell one unit, So just things like that we had to kind of weigh.
But again, that's why I love entrepreneurship and starting your own business because it seems like someone such as yourself, even though you're in project management or product management, had to essentially kind of learn all this stuff on the fly, which you did, and still was able to get an actual product, physical product, and it was people are buying it. I think that's like a ingenious thing when somebody thinks of something that other people will want. Obviously, it's a big help for you as well to kind of create the product, go through that whole process, have a physical product, other people are buying it. I don't know. I think that does not get enough credit as it should. And again, it seems like kind of you telling your story, you got to go through a ton of things, learn on the fly, make decisions with your gut, or maybe with not knowing all the information or whatever the case may be. And it seemed like it still worked out for you. So I was like, I guess to the audience, hey, this thing is not just a one size fits all or one person. You have to be an engineer. You have to be a seasoned business owner to do it. You can do it regardless of kind of your background. Would you agree with that?
Anyone can do it. Oh my God. I mean, I love hearing founder stories, right? Because they're just no one starts off knowing what they're doing, right? Like some people might start off a little bit more like capital backing than others, but nobody knows what they're doing. And like, so we all have to figure it out. And I also though would say in the same breath, there's no overnight success. So no matter what story you hear about so-and-so did this idea and they put it all on their credit card and then the next thing you knew, they're millionaires, right? Like there's so much more to the story. And I have to tell myself that every single day. So I've been doing Looky Lou for 4 years now. It's been on the market for almost 2. But, I thought I could put everything on my credit card and the next day be a millionaire too. Like just like this. And it's not how it works, right? It's a grind every day. And even with Looky Lou right now, if I'm not putting, even we're on this like very successful show or on Amazon, if I don't put the elbow grease in almost every single day, then people forget about it. You have to stay top of mind. And so it's a grind every day. And I don't know, interview a year and we'll see where we are from now. But like, I'm still really in the daily grind of it.
No, but again, as you talked about before, you have a little bit more control of the outcome based on you putting that grind in or putting the work in, as opposed to you can be doing something great for year after year after year, and then you kind of wake up, go to work one day and still get the pink slip and ask like, okay, what was the reason? It's like, we're just downsizing, and that can be the end of it. So yeah, you definitely have to put in the work, but it seems like it can be rewarding. Maybe not an overnight success, but at some point definitely have that success. I know you talk about the capital, you talk about the capital backing. What made you guys decide, or did you guys have capital backing as opposed to kind of doing it kind of with personal finances? How did you weigh that decision? Because you see a lot of people, whether it's a Kickstarter campaign or getting investments. What was that kind of process for you, or the calculation for you to say, okay, we're going to do it this way as opposed to that way?
Yeah. So I've done venture back. My first company was venture backed. Never again. Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess I should never say never, but I just had such a poor experience with that what I felt like was the minute I got venture capital, it wasn't my company anymore. And I was really pushed to make decisions that had scale versus decisions what I thought were best for the user, or decisions that I thought could be like profitable quicker. Um, but yeah, so in this mindset, I was like, oof, like dealing with not only like user feedback and new manufacturing, doing this in a partnership and a marriage, like so many factors, that the last thing I also wanted to deal with was someone else owning part of my
For
company at
sure.
this point in time. Maybe like in the future, we could talk about some various different scale.
For sure.
So yeah, my husband and I both have, full-time W-2 jobs. We've already talked about how that can be really draining at some points, and you're at some point working for other people. And, we started thinking about, or as the entrepreneur, I was like, we're putting X amount into savings, or a little bit into like, 401ks or investment funds or whatever. And, they gain 7-10% a year
Yep.
if you're lucky. And like, why am I not making a bigger bet on myself? Like, I really think that, like, given my background, that I should be investing that money in myself and what I think I can do, and like turn a profit on that. And Looky Lou is still a slog. It is not a 7 to 10% return yet, but there is like the potential of it being so much higher than that is so worth it to me. And that's the dream that keeps me going.
You're absolutely right. I actually did a video yesterday with Dana White and the UFC. I think they were on so they're currently being aired on ESPN in terms of the UFC fights. I think I was reading that ESPN was paying UFC like 550 million a year, and it seems like in 2026, the UFC just recently over the last couple of days just struck a deal with Paramount, where now starting in like 2026 they're going to be aired on Paramount, and Paramount is paying the UFC $1.1 billion a year. So it's a 7 year, $7.7 billion deal. And I just look at it like, just that's the American dream. That's entrepreneurship. You have a product, you have a good product, you continue to tweak things, grow it. Next thing you know, you go from making $5.5 billion, year after year after year, and all of a sudden you're doubling that and making $1.1 billion. And like you said, it's going to be no better return on your investment than, in my opinion, your own business is going to most likely kind of beat the market, whether it's the 7 to 10%, but you got to put in that time. But it's just that possibility to you have a infinite return on
Yeah.
the business based on kind of the product and how well it resonates with the people.
Yeah. Totally. 100%. Limitless.
Yep. So then I always like to ask, I just have a few more questions for you. I always like to ask this two-part question to the business owner. The first part of it is, what has been the biggest challenge that you had to overcome up until this point in time with the business? And then on the flip side, what has been the biggest breakthrough that you've had with the business?
The biggest challenge is, like I said, I'm a product person, and I loved making it. I love solving a problem. I love getting user feedback. The marketing and selling of this thing is hard. And the marketing and selling of like myself, really, like walking into retail stores, like trying to, like, the daily like salespersonness can wear on me. And then even like on social media, right? Where I have to, like, be a brand on social media, which is not the thing that like excites me and keeps me up at night. And so that part's hard. And like, I think with all the influencers, and yes, social media can have you have massive reach. That's, I think, how Buy It Now found me, is through social media. And so you have hard stop. You need to have a social media
For sure.
presence.
Yeah.
Um, But I think people sometimes get the misconception that, oh, you're an influencer now, like anyone can make money online. Absolutely not. You have to fight so hard to get your soundbite in. And so that is so much harder than like influencers are making it look, right? And these influencers are freaking badass business people, like they are working hard for that. So that's been the biggest like surprise and challenge I'm currently dealing with. And then the biggest surprise is like, I promise you, this thing actually works. So it is so sweet just to see like the text messages that come in, or the like customer feedback, or the reviews. Like, it is cheesy. Like, don't get me wrong. This is like I always like joking, like it's a glorified baby selfie stick that I made, but so it's, it's a silly product, but I'm also like, it genuinely works. Like, you're trying to get that sibling photo, that Christmas photo, like it works. And so that's been like the most rewarding and exciting part of it, that just makes me so happy. And like, I know it's a good product. And so to me, I'm like, just keep fighting. This thing is like, if it works, it's a good product. And the other sweet thing on that note is the female, like the moms and my friends, and I guess just particularly female entrepreneurship encouragement has been what carries me. Like the amount of moms and friends and just people I didn't even know, people follow me on social media, and I'm like, I'm tired, I want to quit. They're like, no, like you have to keep going, please. And that has been so beautiful and like inspiring. And I could not have started this business without my friends, and like particularly my girlfriends who have helped like build alongside me. So that's been amazing.
Oh, and that's a great point. Just really surrounding yourself with the right support team that's going to keep encouraging you and keep you going, as opposed to people who are going to be, oh, why are you doing this? It's not going to amount to anything, and that can be draining. It's already draining to be an entrepreneur and kind of deal with the day-to-day operations of it. But then on the flip side, if you have someone who's not supporting you or encouraging you, it's almost like you have to kind of not necessarily cut them off, but distance yourself from those people, because it's going to be already kind of tough enough just kind of going through the day-to-day with, like you said, the marketing and dealing with manufacturing and all this other stuff with the business. So that's cool. I actually interviewed Wayne Fromm, who invented the selfie stick. He's out of Canada. I actually got a chance to interview him. So that was pretty cool. That was like last year, and that was a really cool interview. So
Watch that. That's so fun.
oh yeah, for sure. He's legit. It was a lot that went into the selfie stick, as he explains it. And again, even a big part of that with having a product that was so new to the market at that point, trying to educate the audience or the masses on how to use it. What is it good for? That was something that he had to overcome, but obviously that broke through. And hey, man, he was been able to make a ton of money as a result
Oh,
of that.
watch that because like it, like again, oh duh, what a genius idea. No, it's not no duh. Like the amount of like I should show you all the different prototypes and things and falling off the phone. It's too heavy. It's not safe for kids. Like the same thing with the selfie stick. It's like I'm sure that he went through so many wild prototypes to figure out really how do you get the phone to fit and stay and the right angle and all the things.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's something that like it get broke through. I guess that was his overnight success. But again, and that's the cool thing about just hearing these journeys, is because people think, oh man, they just kind of hit it overnight. And then you watch the interview and it's like, no, that person had to really go through something. And I guess in a weird about or roundabout way, it kind of gives you encouragement, even if you're going through something in real time as an entrepreneur startup company, or you're looking to kind of go into something. It kind of gives you that maybe encouragement of, number one, I can do it too, but also, hey, it's okay if kind of some dark days or some challenging days that, hey, this person or that person made it through and I can do the same. So it almost acts as encouragement in a way when you're kind of watching these videos and seeing an entrepreneur who maybe didn't have a clue what's going on as far as entrepreneurship, starting a business. And then next thing you know, they're kind of making it to the big leagues and selling a ton of product, making a ton of money. So yeah, that's cool. And then I guess maybe the last two questions. The first one is, what advice would you give to that aspiring entrepreneur who's maybe kind of doing this double dutch? Do I start the business? Do I not start the business? I talked about earlier, we all have ideals, whether it's through kind of looking at other people go through a challenging thing, or we're going through this challenging thing ourselves that we need to solve for. But again, for whatever reason, they haven't pulled that trigger to say, I'm going to actually do this said thing or start this business. What advice would you give to those aspiring entrepreneurs?
Just do it. Like I feel like I hear always says, like I've said, like when you can't sleep, that's the right idea. People are like, what's the right idea? Or people would ask me after I did my first company, like, will you ever start another company again? I'm like, I don't know. I just didn't, inspiration wasn't hitting yet. And I always feel that even now with Looky Lou right now, when I don't know the right decision and I don't know what to do next, I'm confused. I just wait and I know it's going to come. And I know it's all of a sudden one night of it, whoop, there's the idea. And I can't stop thinking about it. Right. And so like you will know the right timing, but like also like, just like you need to stop and listen and be like open for just like calm your brain down a little bit because it will come. So you'll know when it's like time to start the business, but also just do it. Like don't let fear and all those excuses stop you because I think you will regret it one day. And even looking back on my own life, there's like certain things I should have done, but I let fear stop me, and I think you'll look around and just figure out your own personal circumstances. Like, is your family set up to you to take a little bit more time or a little bit bigger risk? Do you have the support systems? To me, I knew I could do this because I'm a user, right? And so to me, I was like, I know in my heart people would buy this because I would have bought this, right? And so I think there's just like a lot of like the factors that you kind of consider. And if you need one more tip, I would find a mentor because I think a mentor will be like, yes, do that. Like, let me help you go through all of those different excuses that are going through your head and like push you to do it. And I think if you can surround yourself with people who are doing something similar to you, there's no stopping you, right?
No, for sure. And I couldn't agree with you more. And again, I think the slogan by Nike, "Just Do It," was so ahead of its time and so applicable. It was like a timeless thing just because, man, with business, whatever it is that you're doing is almost like, just do it. I think that's so applicable. But then the other thing too, and I found out this, people actually really want to help you. If you kind of really go through the process, whether it's kind of being an attorney, being a business owner, whatever the case may be, you're going to run into people who actually want to help you. I know this whole thing that people don't want to help you and people are selfish and all those things. But when you're around the right people or you're doing something that you're supposed to do, a lot of people will want to be your mentor and want to help you out, help you, avoid the mistakes and the pitfalls that they had to endure as they were coming up. So I just do want to say that to people because you will be surprised how many people really want to help you out as you're going through it as a mentor, as a friend, to kind of have you have success faster than maybe what they have had success.
Can I take a moment to applaud you for a second? I feel like when I think of mentors and people who are doing this, I'm so thankful you're doing this and interviewing these stories because they are so impactful and so meaningful. Like the amount of times I have consumed, I just actually read Phil Knight's story, the founder of Nike, because and it's not an overnight success, right? It took him like 20 years to build that company and so many failed successes, so much stress. Anyway, the fact that you're telling these stories of these founders, it is like the most impactful, important thing. And I'm like so thankful you're doing this.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And then one day we're going to look up and Looky Lou is going to be a household name. And the cool part for me at that point is to say, man, I remember interviewing Caitlyn on the come up, and now she's in a big league now, and it seems like I could have a part of that success as well, which I guess from a selfish standpoint, that's a cool thing for me to kind of be able to look back and see as well. And then I guess maybe the last question that I have for you, maybe the most important question is, how can people follow you? How can people follow the Looky Lou? And how can people purchase the product?
Thank you so much for asking. You can go to the lookylou.com to find the Looky Lou, a book. We also wrote the book. We also wrote a holiday book. So you can go purchase both. It's like a very cute baby shower gift or new mom gift or a Christmas gift. And then we're on Amazon. You can look at the Looky Lou. And please follow on Instagram, the Looky Lou. And tag us when you get really cute baby photos, because that's really the best part of my job, is getting cute baby photos sent to me all the time. So yeah, it's please follow. It means so much to a small business to get that support.
Absolutely. And then because I know on Buy It Now, it was this thing where you guys were still like with buying an actual device, you also got like a book. Is that still a thing?
We got a book.
Well, I think when you bought the actual Looky Lou, the lion, the rattle, then it was like you can kind of get them as a package.
Yes.
Okay.
Gosh, you did your research. Yeah, it's so funny. They told me on the show, don't mention the book because you're only allowed to like pitch one product. But when I mentioned the book, the judges were like, Oh, yeah. So that was again me going with my gut and reading the room and being like, I'm gonna break a rule right now. I'm breaking the rules. So yeah. Another piece of advice to entrepreneurs: break the rules
Break the
because
rules.
they're meant to be broken.
No, for sure. So definitely, audience, not only go get the rattle, definitely go get the book as part of the package. I think that was phenomenal when I was doing a reaction video to that episode, and I saw the combination of both the rattle as well as the book. I'm like, that's great, especially when you're talking about for gifts, whether it's baby shower, Christmas, whatever the case may be. Having that package that you can get both the book and the rattle, I think that was brilliant, and so definitely go get that, audience. Yeah, we talked a lot today. Went through a lot of things with Caitlyn about her journey of the process. She dropped a lot of jewels on us. So hopefully you guys have the pens and the papers out, taking notes. Maybe you have to watch this thing again just to be able to process and absorb everything that we talked about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will catch you guys on the next one.